So today we're going to learn something called difference of squares, or how to factor difference of squares. What does the word square mean? To the power of 2. That's right. So anything that's to the power of 2. So let's say if I have 3 squared, what? 9. So we call 9 a squared term. Okay? Because something squared gives you 9. Okay? Give me another example of something squared.
5 squared.
What's 5 squared? 25. Again, 25 is called a squared term because 5 squared gives me 25. Okay? A letter to be squared, it has to have a degree of 2, or technically an even degree. But for this purpose of this course, we only do degree 2. Okay? So a squared is a squared term. Okay? B squared is a squared term. So we have difference of squares. What does the word difference mean in math? When I say difference, I'm finding the difference between two terms. Subtraction. So the difference means subtraction. So now I have difference of squares. That means it's a subtraction between two squared numbers. Okay? So if I have a squared number or squared term minus another squared term, this is a special kind of factoring. Okay? So here's what I do. In order for me to be able to identify this, first I'm going to have to make sure that my two terms are squared. And second, I want to make sure that I have a subtraction in the middle. Okay? So let's look at the first one. So I have 9y squared minus 16. So I want you to look at the back sheet and tell me, is 9 a squared term and is 16 a squared term?
Yes.
So you have a 9 somewhere. What gives you 9?
3 squared.
3 squared. What gives you 16?
4 squared.
4 squared. Okay. So if you don't have it on your sheet for some reason, if it's above the 12 and you don't have it on your sheet, the way that to find out if it's a squared sheet, if it's a squared number, eyes on the board, please. The way to find out if it's a squared number, you just have to do the square root of it. So if you do the square root of 9, you're going to get a 3. If you get a whole number, that means it's a squared term. Okay? So let's say if I give you, for example, do 14 squared for me. 196, right? If I give you, let's say, 196 y squared, right? 196 is not going to be on your green sheet, right? But how can you find out if 196 is a squared term? To find out, you do the square root. Okay? When you do the square root, because you're going to get a whole number, which is 14, then you know it's a squared term. Do we understand that?
So what do you put in the square root of 196?
We'll talk about how to factor it in a second. Okay? But in the calculator, yeah, you do the square root of 196. Okay? All right. Now, are both terms squared terms?
Yes.
9 is a squared term. Y is squared because it has a 2 on top of it. 16 is a squared term. So yes, both terms are squared. Do I have a minus between them?
Yes.
Subtraction. Yes, I do. So now I can call this difference of squares. The way to factor difference of squares is the following. So these are the steps. Eyes on the board, please. You're going to put 2 brackets. In the first bracket, you're going to put a plus. And in the second bracket, you're going to put a minus. It's always going to be 1 plus, 1 minus. Then, for the first spot, you're going to put the square root of 9y squared. Okay? So in both spots, you're going to put the square root of 9y squared. And then in the second spot, you're going to do the square root of 16. Okay? So let's see what's that going to give me. What's square root of 9? 3. And then square root of y squared is going to be y, because the square and the square root, they cancel each other. They're opposite of each other. Plus square root of 16, 4. And then the same thing I'm going to get here. So I'm going to get 3y minus 4. So you see I have both factors, right? One is positive, one is negative. Does that make sense? Now I want to check if my answer is correct. I want to check if that's actually true. So if I want to check, and you don't have to do that often, right? You just do it if you're not feeling, that your answer is correct or whatever, or you want to make sure that your answer is right. Or if you can do it every time, sure, why not, if you have lots of time on your hand. Okay, if I want to check, what do I do? FOIL, right? So that means I multiply first by first. So that's going to be 9y squared, because 3 times 3 is 9. Y times y is y squared. What's 3y times negative 4? Negative 12y. What's 4 times 3y? Plus 12y, right? And what's 4 times negative 4? So what are my like terms? So these are my like terms, right? What's minus 12 plus 12y? They're gone, they're 0, right? You have your negative 12 below ground, you're adding 12, you're going to the 0, right? So that's going to be 9y squared, the 0, they're gone, minus 16. Is that what I started with? Yes. Okay? So, first of all, you're going to check if they're squared terms. Then you're going to check if there is a minus between them. If it is, then you're going to follow the rule of difference of squares. So, 2 brackets. I'm just going to add a page here. So here's what I usually write. Okay? Squared terms with a minus between them. First step is you put brackets with a plus in the first, minus in the second. Then in the second step, you do the square root of the first term, that you put it in the first position, and then the square root of the second term in the second position. Okay? Then I can simplify this to a plus b times a minus b. Okay? So this is, I'm showing you step by step how you should do it. Technically, you can move to this step right away. Okay? It's just for me to show you step 1, step 2, step 3 in separate steps. Yes? Can you? You want it back? Okay. This one?